going over there because they had heart problems. They went over, two of them died. I said, well, I guess I ain't gonna try that.
No.
You don't need that. You're already getting a severance.
Good point. Might take a cut.
I got a nice area where I can walk, over where I am. Yeah. A lot of people walk there too.
Oh, yes, there is.
Yeah, my neighbor keeps checking on me, says, you still doing the walk? I said, yeah, I said, but, Saturday night I didn't have to.
You'd say, hey, thirsty. You did it then, didn't you?
All right.
I did more than that. I usually take, go one side drive right around to Blackwood and come back home that way.
Yeah. You did more than that.
But here lately,
To
I
make a motion.
downstairs. Just as I came, I put the last 3 drawers back in. Now I could do the walls and the trim.
Did you, Commissioner? Dennis must have given up. I haven't seen him around yet.
Saw him down in Blankwood.
We're missing somebody in the audience today.
Came down and said hello.
Don, we're missing somebody in the audience.
Hmm?
We're missing one in the audience.
Yeah.
He said he thought you were gonna pick him up today.
If he's waiting for me, he's got a long wait.
And yes, we are being recorded right now.
He's probably making extra snacks.
Now officially being 3 o'clock, we can call the June 20th, 2018 meeting of the Laconia Police Commission to order, and would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No, we have Recording Secretary Laurie A. Marsh, and present are the following commissioners, Commissioner Thomas Tarr, Commissioner Frank Mello, and Commissioner Doug Woodham. I'd like to recognize the staff present, Chief Matthew Canfield, Lieutenant Richard Simmons, Lieutenant Michael P. Finogle, Prosecutor James Sawyer, and Lieutenant Thomas Sweat. Since we have a quorum of the commissioners, we will continue with the meeting. Personnel matters, commendations and awards. Chief Canfield.
Nothing?
Training, Chair recognizes Lieutenant Finogle.
I don't have anything.
Talk a little bit about that drill that the captain went to.
I don't know a whole lot about it. I know he went down after an invitation because they were conducting an exercise that had to do with Motorcycle Week, but I didn't get to talk to him about what went on.
It was a drill in Worcester at the airport, and my understanding was that it was for a major catastrophe, almost like a terrorist attack in the New England area, and part of it involved motorcycle week response and planning. So I didn't talk to him in depth about it, but I guess it was a pretty good training and involved all of our federal partners down in that area as well. So we were invited to the drill, and my understanding was it was very good training. So
Chief Canfield, the Laconia Links,
nothing for Laconia Links.
resignations and retirements,
Nothing.
hirings, Lieutenant Van Ogle.
We're doing a PT test on the 30th of June. We just had the Great Bay test, so we were able to go down there and talk to about 120, 130 people that participated in the test. So we're getting applications in for the next process. We should be doing oral boards by third week of July, and hopefully backgrounds on potential candidates by mid-August.
What's the PT test consist of, Lieutenant?
Push-ups, sit-ups, and a 1.5 mile run.
All with prescribed levels of success,
Yeah, just-
benchmarks in each one of those?
Yeah, they're at the 35th percentile for the Cooper standards, and it's based on age group.
Promotions and classification change, Chief Canfield.
Nothing at this time.
Operations and Support Division Commander Lieutenant Simmons.
The chief's going to do a report out on Bike Week. I just wanted to point out, just briefly, that the patrol force and detectives really did a good job during Bike Week. We asked a lot of the sergeants during the week, and I was really impressed by what they did. I thought everybody did a really good job. There are some patrol shortages right now with openings and people that are in training. It's something that comes up, I know, at each meeting. You will probably see a little rise in overtime, but we are doing the best we can, and people are really stepping up to help out with that. A lot of the events are still coming up, 4th of July and the 7th of July, fireworks and the parade and the event at O-Pee-Chee, Citizens Academy, National Night Out. Very busy time right now, a lot of things planned, a lot of things coming up. And with the shortages, it's kind of tough, but people are really stepping up. With the hirings that are going on, a lot of the officers are doing some of the in-house training, and, you know, we're putting a lot on the FTOs too, so it's just a really busy time for us right now.
Support Division, Lieutenant Van Ogle.
I don't have anything.
Operations Division, Lieutenant Simmons.
I don't have anything to add.
And Detective Division, Lieutenant Sweat.
I don't have anything, thank you.
And Legal Division, Prosecutor Sawyer.
I know the last few times I've mentioned the intern that was in process, and unfortunately, when I contacted her to bring her in, she took a paying job down by her house, so she thought that she was gonna, it's a summer position, so she may come back in the fall, but she declined to come forward at this time, which is fine. It is volunteer after all. So we left the door open for her to come back in the future. I did get I was solicited by a software company. I didn't mention this to Chief at all, and I was waiting to get some numbers back. 'Cause right now, I don't have a case management for my prosecution unit. I basically use IMC, which we don't have anything for prosecution other than subpoenas. We can do that through that. The software is Carpel, which all the county attorneys have. I did get some preliminary numbers, which I'm not going to even present to the chief, as they're exorbitant. And that was based upon a 4-person plan, because I initially said, he asked for how many people, and I said 2, 3, or 4. And it was their policy to only do the maximum. They wouldn't give me, so I have to reach out to him, see if I can get that number down and explain why I asked for the possible 4 slots. If need be, I could do it with 2, Colleen or Lori and myself being on that system. So that may be something I approach the chief to, and I think would help organizationally with my case, because right now I use Outlook, which is the Microsoft Suite software, and it's really a calendar, but I put all my contacts in there for the cases, and I use IMC, as part of my job too, but we'll see where that pans out.
Commission action, you've all had received a copy of the minutes. Is there a motion to accept them?
Motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
A motion made by Commissioner Tar, and it's seconded by Commissioner Mello, and passed unanimously. We all agree, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Ayes have it. The minutes of May 16th were accepted as distributed. Review of monthly activity reports. Chief Canfield.
So for the past month, there were 2,005 calls for service, up slightly by 7 from the corresponding month last year. 370 criminal offenses investigated, 206 of which were cleared by arrest, with a total of 133 physical arrests, 382 motor vehicle stops, 28 motor vehicle summonses, 347 written warnings, 1 fatal accident, total of 44 accidents, 11 which had injury, 238 parking tickets issued, 5 DWI arrests, and 33 people taken into protective custody. As part of that, we responded to 30 domestic disturbance calls, 136 other disturbances, 9 suicidal subjects, and 12 violation restraining orders. And our victim services unit donated 15.25 volunteer hours serving 7 different victims.
I have a question. Chief, you go back up to the line on total number of physical arrests.
Yep.
And just moving across there on the chart, it seems like we're way ahead there this year. You see the 587 under total this year to date
Yep.
versus last year at this time we had 111. That seems like a pretty big discrepancy. I'm just wondering how that came about, or whether it's a,
I'm guessing that 111 is not accurate.
seems like the activity seems to have be pretty consistent, and I just noticed that there's a pretty big gap from last year at this point to where we are now in 2018.
Yeah, I will check with Robin who computed these stats, but that 111 seems like it's out of place to me. That doesn't make a lot of sense that we're up 428%, so I'll double check on that and get you an answer, but
Yeah, just shoot us an email on that.
I think that number's gonna be wrong.
What's that, Rich?
I would agree with the chief. I think that number's gonna be wrong. I think the arrests are up slightly, but not to that extent.
Not
I mean, we
400%?
typically trend around 1,200 arrests for the year, so we're halfway through, so that should be around 600.
Yeah,
So for a year, total last year to date, there's no way it was 111
I know.
at this point, so.
Yeah.
My guess is that she didn't correct that on the spreadsheet for some reason,
Yeah.
but I'll double check that.
Monthly fleet report, Lieutenant Fenogle.
We just took delivery of car 8, which was involved in a car accident. That's just waiting to be lettered, and car 18, we had a minor repair done on. Other than that, nothing else for it.
do we have all those, do we have all of those carbon monoxide detectors installed in all of the,
All the SUVs have
all the
them.
SUVs have those?
Even the new ones that they say are adapted, we have them in there.
Yeah.
They've had the exhaust modified, so, and actually, we've had it go off in the ones that have been modified, so.
Thanks.
Criminal Investigative Unit Statistics, Chief Canfield.
Do you have anything, Lieutenant?
I haven't even had a chance to review them, so please ask questions. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Any questions you think I could answer? I'd be happy to.
yeah, that kind of cuts down on the number of questions.
Exactly.
Monthly traffic statistics, Chief Canfield.
So for the past month, from May, We responded to a total of 44 accidents, 11 of which had injury, and one of which was a fatal accident. And issued a total of 238 parking tickets. That's certainly mostly due to the work of the parking enforcement officers that we hire for the summer.
Yeah.
They've certainly been out and issuing those and using the kiosks in the weirs and the electronic system up there as well, so.
Moving on, budget printout. Chief Canfield?
Budget's in good shape. We're just wrapping up some year-end expenses, and we will end the year in the black on a positive note. We've been monitoring, we always monitor it closely, but certainly the last couple months we've monitored very closely, and feel very confident that we'll end on a positive note and within our means.
I know I've asked you this many times before, but my memory is not as what it used to be. You don't have to comment on any of that, but
Yeah, Jim.
just, does that roll over into next fiscal year?
It does not.
So whatever you don't spend just goes back to City Hall
Yeah, it goes back into the general fund, and
to help reduce the property taxes, like, for example, stuff like that?
my guess is probably not, but
Yeah.
I think historically, the police department has done an outstanding
Yes.
job with their budget.
For sure.
They'll always work down to
Yep.
a minuscule amount,
Absolutely.
not, there's no slough, no fat, or no pork in there.
No. Very well managed, Chief.
Commended,
thank you.
commended. Moving on, correspondence to and from the department. Chief Canfield.
I don't have anything as far as that goes.
I know there's a nice letter regarding the two officers that attended the bicycle.
There was, yeah, that was from Steve Laughlin. He's a
Yep.
very big supporter of
Yep.
us, and he likes to take some photographs and put together a nice newsletter for Kiwanis, so.
Nice. Chief's report.
So we received 9 performance assessment cards, all of which were As. They all had nice positive comments on them. Year-to-date, we've responded to 44 overdoses, drug overdoses, 6 of which are suspected as being fatal. And then under Motorcycle Week, we responded to 36 total accidents during the week, 16 of which involved injuries, and then the fatal motorcycle accident that was on Watson Road. We made a total of 65 arrests, that was citywide, 24 protective custody arrests, 26 drug-related offenses, 3 DWIs, 4 simple assault, domestic violence related, 1 simple assault, and 8 resistant arrests. So certainly the crowds were probably, I'd say, the biggest I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years. They were significant over the last few years, and the weather certainly had a big part to play in that. But I think these stats are relatively low compared to the numbers that appeared, and certainly the amount of alcohol that was served during the week, and I think it was a very safe week overall, and I think our officers did a great job along with all of our law enforcement partners, so.
So those statistics you just read are pretty consistent with years past in terms of crowd size that we had this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think our arrest statistics are right on par with what they have been the last few years, but I think the crowds were significantly more. The number of accidents is up slightly from what they were last year, but, most of those, the majority of those were non-injury accidents, so you get that many motorcycles and people around, I mean, it tends to happen, so.
I think there was more active days this year too, if that makes sense. Usually there's a day or two where it's raining and there's not a whole lot of people because the weather was great all the time. I think every day there was a good crowd, was very active, so.
I got to say that on Friday, the Saturday before, I happened to have a chance to ride with Sergeant Noyce, and there seemed to be a lot of bicycles around that time, but it seems that there was more activity taking place here in the city, and the downtown boys were really busy, and I gotta think that they deserve some really pat in the back for what they did. They were right out straight. And then Saturday night, I had a chance to go up to the Weirs, and again, I asked in the office before I left, how's things going? They said they were right out straight, they were busy, and I didn't see anybody in the office, or anybody. They were out working. And I got up to the Weirs, and there seemed to be, I don't know, that Saturday night that I was there, seemed to be a few more people there than there was last year at the time I was there. And it seemed pretty orderly and good, and everybody was happy-go-lucky. I took a walk with Lieutenant Simmons and Sergeant Black, and everybody was happy-go-lucky. I mean, it wasn't, I mean, happy-go-lucky that they were there and having a good time, but none seemed as if they were waddling around, that they'd had too much to drink or anything like that at the time I was there. And they did a good job up there, too. I got to compliment them.
Moving on. Anything under old business?
Nope.
New business?
There's a typo on the next one, should be July 18th. Not July 5th.
Actually, Commissioner, can I back up to two more things under my report?
Sure.
The first one is that the regional TAR team, the accident reconstruction team that is run by the county, the commander of that was Mark Lewandowski, the Belmont Police Chief, who's retiring and going to a part-time status. As part of that, the bylaws of the regional team require that it be a full-time police chief in the county that heads that. I'll volunteer to step up to that role, which has been supported by the County Chiefs Association. Captain Grayton is the assistant commander of that team, so it looks like we'll be taking over the accident reconstruction team and taking a lead on that, which is a very good resource for not only us, but also for the county. Accident reconstruction is certainly a gift that takes a lot of training, and it's a real specialty when you get into the math and the speed calculations and that kind of stuff. And it's something that some of our officers have that opportunity. They are really good at it, and then joining forces with the other departments, I think, is a big benefit for us. In addition, Robin Moyer has been working on replacing our crime reports that is found online that shows the crime report mapping. We're looking to transition away from that and go to a program called TIP 411. So not only does it do the crime mapping for us that we can put online where people can see the crime in the different areas of the city, but also if we're looking to tie it into our crime line program that we currently have, but it's an anonymous reporting that people can report tips to us via text message. They can send photos. It would go to our dispatch center. And if depending on the type of tip it is, it would be directly routed to, say like a drug tip, for instance, it would be automatically routed to detectives, and a little bit more up to speed than writing stuff down on a piece of paper and funnel it to the right person. So at some point, probably late August, September, we'll be rolling out a press release on that, and when it's up and operational. But certainly, hopefully, it'll generate some more reporting and anonymous information that we can use for all kinds of crime and drug investigations. People don't pick up the phone necessarily and give us information. They're reporting it on Facebook or something like that, which Facebook is not really the medium for that purpose. So that's it.
Good. I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you
No,
were
that's okay.
done. All right, new business.
Nothing.
Confirmation of the next meeting date, July 8th, 2018. Anything under other business?
Nothing.
I would move that we enter non-public session. According to RSA 91-A:3, Section 2, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him or her unless the employee affected has a right to a meeting, and 2, request that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted.
Is there a second?
Second.
On a motion made by Commissioner Tar and seconded by Commissioner Mello, and we all agree, yes?
Yes.
Passed unanimously in accordance with RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2A. The Laconia Physics Commission entered into a non-public session at 3:22 PM.
Well, I'd like